Hello, I'm Kevin O'Hare with the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Assessment and Accountability. I work in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. Today I want to welcome you to the Transition Attainment Record, also known as the TAR training, for the 2020-2021 school year. To start things off, if you do not have students in grade 11 or grades 12 or 14 needing a retake, then you are not required to be watching this training right now. This training applies only to students at grade 11 who would take the TAR while participating in the Kentucky Alternate Assessment, or a grade 12 or grade 14 student taking the assessment as a retake. The purpose of this training is to walk you through the TAR administration practices. This test is different from the attainment task most are familiar with when it relates to the alternate K-Prep. Now that I'm finished rambling, a couple of my reminders and then we will begin. If you have not printed the Transition Attainment Record Administration Guide, please do so at this time. The site on this page will provide direct access to the alternate K-Prep resources page found on the Kentucky Department of Education website. Once you are finished with the training, you will need to complete the qualifying quiz. Remember, and we will touch upon this during the training, only the lead team member is required to complete the training and the quiz. The quiz is located in the online training system. Select Access KDE training materials and take quizzes. Then select Take Quiz, which is found under the Transition Attainment Record section. Once again, that's in the online training system where you go in to complete the quizzes. You will first notice it under Teacher Tools, and that's where you'll go locate the Access trainings and take quizzes. Upon successful completion of the quiz, you will then be able to access the online training system where you took the quiz. Under Teacher Tools, you will see a highlighted area that says Transition Attainment Record. There you will be able to download or print the actual TAR document in conjunction with and provide it during the transition planning meeting or the annual review as part of the admissions and release committee, whichever one is responsible for providing this task. Before we get started with the training, I would first like to share with you a brief explanation of the standards the TAR will measure over the next 3 years. As many of you are aware, the new Kentucky academic standards that would make up the alternate K-Prep attainment task were released in May and June of 2020. The reading and mathematics standards released in May were shared in regards to students who will be completing the reading and mathematics attainment task at grade 10. Since the TAR does not start until grade 11, the grade 11 students this year will not be familiar with those new standards. Therefore, the TAR assessment for 2020-2021 this year will be based on last year's standards, which happen to be the same standards used in the 2018-19 administration. On this slide, you will see that the former assessment standards represent the standards that we will assess this year. Starting in 2021-2022, the grade 11 students will measure the new standards as that is what they will be familiar with. However, for any grade 12 or grade 14 students needing to complete the assessment, they would continue with the former assessment standards. I hope this paints a clearer picture of how the assessment will move forward over the next 3 years. The Transition Attainment Record, as we noted, also known as the TAR, is a rating scale format which assesses specific standards at the high school grade range for students on the Kentucky Alternate Assessment. It is based on direct observations of student performance by members of the ARC committee or transition team. The TAR includes a student interview piece. If the student is unable to answer questions on the student interview, the team may provide the known answers. The interview information is used for reporting purposes only and not for scoring or accountability. The student interview should provide valuable information for transition planning as the student moves forward. The TAR will be used to represent the academic portion of post-secondary readiness for alternate assessment students at high school. The TAR is required to be administered at grade 11. It takes the place of the ACT requirements at high school for those students participating in the Kentucky Alternate Assessment. The TAR will represent grade level content standards for reading, mathematics, and science that have been measured at the respective high school grade ranges. The benchmarks are for reading 19 out of 30, and for mathematics and science 16 out of 30. For any student who did not meet the benchmark on the TAR at grade 11, they will have the opportunity to take it again at grade 12. Once again, the benchmarks are for reading 19 out of 30, and for mathematics and science 16 out of 30. Since grade 12 students are no longer required to complete attainment tasks, with social studies being moved to grade 11, and the TAR is not a mandatory assessment at grade 12, in order for a grade 12 student to test, the DAC, District Assessment Coordinator, DOS, or someone with district level access must first register the student in the Student Registration Database, or the SRD. This process is the same as it was in the past for a grade 14 student and does not take an extraordinary amount of time to complete. Once registered, the DAC, DOS, or district level administrator must contact Kevin O'Hare and request that an account be opened for score entry. So just to repeat that process very quickly, you would go into the Student Registration Database, select Student Registration, and when that comes up, you will just provide the student's name, SSID, grade, gender, and then you would provide the school and district, select Submit. They would then show up on your high school roster. At that point, you would contact me, Kevin O'Hare, and let me know which content areas the student would be responsible for taking, whether it be reading, math, science, or all of the above. And I would go in and open that system for them to be able to input scores once the database opens in February. Students who complete the 12th grade and remain in a district until they exit or age out by 21 are identified in Infinite Campus as grade 14. Students who are grade 14 may continue to take the TAR as long as a graduation code has not been assigned. Once the graduation code is assigned to a student, the post-secondary readiness score is reported and they are no longer eligible to work towards meeting the benchmarks for completion. The benchmarks remain the same at grade 14 as they are at grades 11 and 12. If the district would like a grade 14 student to take the TAR, the student must be added manually in the SRD by the DAC, DOS, or someone with district level access. Once the student has been added, the administrator must contact Kevin O'Hare and request that the TAR be open for score entry, along with which specific content area that needs to be completed. For example, if a student in grade 11 met benchmark in reading, then at grades 12 or 14, reading would no longer need to be completed. So basically what that does is it banks their highest score in that specific content area so that they're not required to go back in and do it all again. The TAR or any Kentucky state assessment should be considered secure testing material. It doesn't have as many security restrictions as the attainment task, but still it is a state assessment. When not working with the TAR, store it in a secure location such as a locked desk drawer or filing cabinet. Do not leave the TAR out in the open for non-authorized staff to view. Do not share with anyone except school personnel or authorized non-school personnel who are involved with the TAR administration and have completed the administration code and inclusion of special populations trainings. Instruction should come from the curriculum and not be directly centered on the items assessed by the TAR. As noted on this slide, you will see some of the approved and non-approved practices associated with the TAR. When finished with the TAR, file it in a secure location along with any assessment items and/or notes. Once you have finished the training module and quiz, you will be granted access to the TAR, which is found under Teacher Tools on the online training site. In most cases, the lead team member, which is typically the special educator who works with the student on a consistent basis, would complete the training, quiz, and then print the TAR document. You can begin meeting with team members as soon as you have completed the training and the quiz. It is highly recommended to complete the TAR during a transition planning meeting or the annual meeting to facilitate completion of the interview with all available team members. The administration of the TAR must be completed by May 28th, 2021. The entry of scores on the TAR must be submitted by June 4th, 2021. Pages 5 and 6 of the administration guide describe the team members who complete the TAR or assist in the development of assessment items when needed. The lead team member will be responsible for coordinating the meetings and facilitating the checklist. Other team members are those in the building that are familiar with the student and his or her performance. The paraprofessional can assist in providing information, but the responsibility of scoring and providing the primary information is that of the certified staff member. Now let's take a look at what steps need to be taken in getting started. The lead team member must review the training and successfully complete the qualifying quiz. The lead team member is responsible for explaining the process to the rest of the team members. Each certified staff assisting with the TAR must complete the administration code and inclusion of special populations regulation trainings. Review the standards, items, and possible documentation with other team members as the team determines the rating for each item. Rely upon the expertise of each team member for rating the student performance. For example, a content teacher may have a better understanding of the content standards, or a special education teacher may understand the student's disability and how that might have impacted the performance. All team members play a critical role in this assessment. The student performance on each item should be discussed and agreed upon by team members. If a team cannot come to a consensus on an item, then the lower of the ratings considered must be used. For example, if all the members but one feel an item is a 1, the remaining member thinks the item is a 0, then in this situation, the 0 would be applied. It is extremely important that rating decisions not be made or influenced by only one person. Each item must be scored for the student and must be based on observations rather than assumptions. The team may not assume that a student cannot perform a skill and therefore score as such without providing the student an opportunity to try. Opportunities include providing the student with instruction on the item, a means to access the instruction, and a means to demonstrate understanding. When the team is not aware of current student performance, then an assessment activity should be developed to allow the student to demonstrate that performance. Directions for designing and utilizing assessment activities can be found on pages 8 through 9 of the administration guide. When developing and delivering an assessment task, it is important to closely follow the guidelines provided. There is an example of an assessment activity beginning on page 9 of the administration guide. Page 8 of the administration guide provides directions on types of supporting documentation. It is important to remember that the student rating must be based on a direct observation and not based on what the team thinks the student may be able to do or not do. The lead team member needs to note where the documentation of that observation is located. As we have shared during the summer and also in August, the Alternate Assessment and Accountability Folder, or AAAF, is no longer a state requirement. Therefore, the recommendation for keeping record of documentation around standards may be kept in the student working folder. This would be the location to place any assessments developed directly for the TAR. The Individual Learning Plan, or the IOP, or any transition planning instrument may provide the needed documentation as well. In that case, the IOP can be checked. Any different documentation which isn't found in one of the listed locations may be entered in the Other section. If as a district you choose to continue use of the AAAF and wish to house the documentation there, then for Other you can list AAAF. If no documentation exists, then no previous documentation should be selected. Once again, if you're a district that continues use of the AAAF, even though it's no longer on that list of actual documentation, you can mark Other and then list the AAAF in Other. The TAR must be scored or rated strictly according to the guidelines to ensure an accurate picture of student performance. As a team, discuss the items and the related standards in order to develop a common understanding. This will ensure more consistent scoring. Communication plays a vital role in how the student performs on the TAR. The common modality of communication, or how the student responds on a consistent basis, should be reflected. This could include but not be limited to pointing, eye gazes, verbal direction, or guidance. How the student responds will display this part of the skills to be demonstrated. The item rating scale can be found on page 7 and 8 of the administration guide. The lowest rating is a 0 and is used when the student does not demonstrate the skill in any setting. The rating of a 1 should be given when the student response is either inconsistent 79% of the time or less frequently, occurring occasionally, or if prompts are required for the student to respond accurately. This would mean that the student is not able to identify the item in question without some form of assistance. The rating of 2 should be given if the student performs the skill independently and consistently over time. Remember that consistently over time is about 80% or more. Supports are acceptable as long as they are not prompting the student to the correct answer. Supports might be picture symbols, enlarged text, manipulatives, talking calculators, etc. These supports must be used during instruction and identified as part of the IEP. So a quick recap: if an answer is being prompted or supports are prompting the student to a particular response, the student then, however, is able to answer correctly based on those prompts. That's where a 1 comes in, because they are in the process of development and prompting. However, to receive a 2, no prompting would be permitted. They would have to independently provide that response with accuracy at least 80% or more of the time. Now, just for a means to assist the team in better understanding how to score or rate the items on the TAR, let's look at 3 examples and use the ratings for the TAR to apply to each. Here's an example of an item. The student is able to identify the central idea of a text. The team knew what the student performance was through classroom observations. Based on those observations, the student independently scored at or above 80% and therefore was found to have a rating of 2. The item was covered in classwork and also covered by the Reading IEP Go. So the team was able to use the IEP monitoring data and work samples in the student working folder to evidence performance and provide documentation. Here is another example. In this example, the student is able to identify the scale of a given graph or data display was covered by IEP data through samples shared in the student working folder. The observations did point out that the student required verbal prompting. Prompting based on the rating scale does link to a score of 1. In the last example, the item shared is the student understands that a sailboat is powered by the wind in order to move forward. It appears that the team had no prior observations of student performance linked to this item, so an assessment activity was created. The activity was designed as a multiple choice test and read to the student. The student was not able to answer correctly even with prompts, so a rating of a 0 was given. The graded assessment activity is filed in the student working folder. Now for a quick review. Review the TAR administration guide. The lead team member will complete the TAR qualification quiz found in the online training system. Upon successful completion of the quiz, access to the TAR document will be granted by going back to the online training system and locating transition attainment records found under Teacher Tools. This is the same location where the quiz site is accessed. Print the TAR for administration. Meet with members of the student's instructional team to discuss the items and then rate the student's performance. The instructional team could be your transition team, it could be your ARC committee, those members that will come together in order to rate these individual assessment items. Even though the student interview is not scored or part of accountability, it is critical that the team completes that part of the TAR along with the student's participation, if at all possible. The TAR administration must be completed by May 28, 2021. Remember that all team members need to be listed on the TAR document that was printed, and once scores have been entered in the student registration database, the TAR document should be destroyed at the end of the school year when destroying all attainment tasks for window 2. So you want to hang on to the actual TAR document, provide those scores in the student registration database. Then at the conclusion of the school year, when you are destroying window 2 attainment task materials, you would also destroy the TAR document. The last day to enter scores for the TAR or any part of the alternate K-Prep is June 4th, 2021. To take the quiz for the TAR, go to the online training system, or OTS, which you can also access by clicking the link at the bottom of this slide. Provide your username and password, then under Teacher Tools, choose Access KDE Training Materials and Take Quizzes. Once in, you will select to take quiz found under the Transition Attainment Record placeholder. I do want to share with the viewers at this time that this training and quiz will open on October 5th. Once this is open, it is available to be completed after the quiz and the training has been conducted by the lead team member and that document is made available. This training does remain open from October 5th through May the 28th, 2021. So there is a significant time frame there just to be able to provide some flexibility in when the annual meetings might occur or transition team meetings might occur, just so all the team members are available, able to participate, and furthermore to give more time for instruction to occur if necessary. This concludes the TAR training for the 2020-2021 school year. If you have any questions, you may email Kevin O'Hare or call the office at 502-564-4394. I wish you the best of luck on the upcoming quiz and the TAR administration this year. Have a great day.